My name is Hank Wiederford, and at 67 years old, I've seen my fair share of life's curveballs. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for the seismic shift that took place on July 4th, 2024. Yes, Independence Day. A day synonymous with fireworks, freedom, and the pursuit of happiness became a stage for an encounter that teetered on the edge of the afterlife. Now, I'm not one to dress things up with fancy words or intricate tales. I'm a straightforward kind of guy, having spent my years as an Army vet and then a mechanic. But what I'm about to share is as tangible as the rusted wrench I used to turn, and it upended everything I thought I knew about existence and the great beyond. It was a sweltering Thursday morning, the kind that bakes the pavement and makes you wish for a cool breeze. I was knee-deep in the annual ritual of setting up our 4th of July barbecue. My wife Betty's always reminding me to take it easy in the heat, but I'm as stubborn as a mule. I like doing things my way. Little did I know that this routine task would spiral into an experience that defied the mundane and the expected. Having just finished entering the canopy in our backyard and preparing to tackle the grill, I heard an odd noise, something akin to a cat's plaintive meow mixed with the hissing escape of a deflating balloon. Curious, I scanned the area, searching for the source. That's when I spotted it, a balloon festooned in red, white, and blue drifting across the yard. Now, balloons aren't exactly a novelty on the 4th of July, but this one was different. It bore an image of Uncle Sam, that iconic figure with a stern gaze and a pointed finger, urging "I want you." Without a second thought, I found myself running after it, driven by a mixture of impulse and perhaps a touch of patriotic duty. My focus narrowed to that bobbing, star-spangled orb as I sprinted across the yard, determined to catch it before it became neighborhood litter. In my single-minded pursuit, I failed to notice the sprinkler head jutting out of the grass. One moment I was almost grasping the balloon string, and the next my foot caught on the sprinkler, sending me hurtling through the air. Falling is never pleasant, especially at my age, but this wasn't your ordinary tumble. As I descended, my head collided with the concrete patio's edge with a sickening thud. The world erupted into a chaotic burst of red, white, and blue, so patriotic, I thought in my disoriented state, before plunging into darkness. When I regained consciousness, everything had changed. I was no longer on the unforgiving ground, but floating weightlessly amidst a sea of the softest, most ethereal clouds. At first, I assumed it was one of those dreams where you're plummeting, and then jolted awake. But the vividness, the reality of it all, soon dispelled that notion. Looking down, I expected to see my familiar body clad in the stars and stripes t-shirt and cargo shorts. Instead, I saw something altogether different. A form composed of gentle, pulsating light. It wasn't a blinding glare, but a warm, soothing glow that seemed to synchronize with my very thoughts. At that moment, the realization dawned. I wasn't in my backyard anymore. I wasn't on Earth at all. This was an entirely different realm. As I floated, grappling with this new reality, a voice emerged. It wasn't a thunderous proclamation, but a soft, comforting murmur, akin to a grandparent welcoming you back from a long journey. "Welcome, Hank," the voice intoned. "Don't be afraid. You're safe here." In that serene, otherworldly space, I felt an unexpected calm. Whatever lay ahead, I knew it was a journey I was meant to experience, and the universe had far more in store for me than I could ever have imagined. I turned, or rather, I willed myself to turn, and my luminescent form complied. Approaching me was a figure, radiant and intense, a beacon of light compared to my softer glow. It was as if a sparkler was meeting a full-blown fireworks display. "Where am I?" I asked, astonished that words emerged without moving my mouth. What happened to me? The figure, though the term angel seems fitting despite the lack of traditional wings or a harp, answered in a voice that was soothing and gentle, though not from a physical mouth. "You've had an accident, Hank. Your earthly body is experiencing what humans refer to as a near-death experience, but rest assured, your journey here isn't over yet. You're here because there are crucial truths you need to grasp. I've never been particularly religious. I believe in God, but I'm not the church-going type or the kind who devours the Bible cover to cover. Yet, floating before this radiant entity, I was enveloped by a profound sense of peace and unconditional love that defied description. Am I in heaven? I asked, struggling to comprehend the reality of my situation. The angel, let's stick with that term for simplicity, seemed to emanate a sense of understanding, even though it lacked a conventional face. You're in a liminal space, Hank, a place between worlds, if you will. Think of it as a waiting room. While you're here, there are 3 vital lessons you must learn. I nodded, or at least I think I did. It's a bit tricky to tell when you're devoid of a physical body. All right, I said, I'm ready. With a subtle gesture, the angel and I began to move, not through walking or flying, but as if gliding through an expanse of light and mist. As we traversed this realm, the angel spoke again. First, they said, you must grasp the true nature of love. I thought I understood love. After all, I've been married to Betty for 45 years. But as the angel spoke, I realized I had only scratched the surface. They unveiled scenes from my life, moments of love and instances of failure. I saw myself as a young soldier, sharing my meager rations with a hungry child in a war-torn village. I witnessed my anger directed at Betty over trivial matters, like leaving the toothpaste cap off. But beyond merely observing these moments, I felt them. I experienced the joy and warmth of that child's gratitude and the sting of disappointment in Betty's eyes when I lashed out. It was as if every moment of love given and withheld was unfolding simultaneously. Love, the angel explained, is not merely an emotion. It's a deliberate choice, a way of living. It's about prioritizing others over yourself, even when it's challenging, especially when it's challenging. Reflecting on all the times I chose anger or selfishness over love, a profound sense of regret washed over me. But the angel continued with a note of encouragement. The good news, they said, is that it's never too late to choose love. Each moment offers a fresh opportunity to be kind, to forgive, to put others first. As these words sank in, I felt a transformation within me. It was as though a heavy burden was being lifted from my soul, replaced by a warmth that suffused my entire being. The second lesson you need to learn, the angel said as our surroundings shifted again, is the power of forgiveness. Suddenly, faces from my past surrounded me, family, friends, coworkers, and even people I'd prefer to forget. I saw Tommy Wilkins, the high school bully who tormented me. I saw my former boss, Mr. Jenkins, who dismissed me just 2 years shy of retirement. I saw my own father among the faces, a man who had never managed to utter, "I love you" or "I'm proud of you." Each face brought a wave of past emotions, a heavy tide of anger, resentment, and hurt. It was as if these feelings were a tangible weight, pressing down on me, constricting my spirit. Holding on to these negative emotions, the angel spoke softly, is akin to drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. Forgiveness doesn't mean condemning their actions. It's about liberating yourself from the chains of anger and bitterness. As their words resonated, something transformative began to unfold within me. With each face I gazed upon, the oppressive weight of my anger seemed to dissipate. Tommy Wilkins, once a tormentor, now appeared as a frightened, insecure kid grappling with his own pain. Mr. Jenkins revealed himself as a man ensnared in a difficult system, burdened with decisions he would rather not make. And my father, oh, the revelation was profound. I saw him as a product of his time, a man who, despite his inability to articulate affection, toiled tirelessly to support his family. In that moment of understanding, I found genuine forgiveness. The burdens lifted, I felt an unprecedented lightness and freedom. The angel nodded with approval. Forgiveness is a gift you bestow upon yourself. Hold on to that truth. Just as I was beginning to process this extraordinary sensation, the angel spoke again. Now, for the third and perhaps most crucial lesson. Our surroundings morphed once more. We were enveloped by a breathtaking expanse of twinkling lights, each one distinct and radiant. Each of these lights, the angel elucidated, represents a soul, a life, and each soul is cherished beyond measure in God's eyes. As I observed, some lights flickered and dimmed, while others erupted in brilliant, joyous splendor. The scene was both mesmerizing and heartrending. The third lesson you need to grasp, Hank, the angel continued, is the infinite worth of every single life. No matter how insignificant a person might seem, they are deeply valued by God. With a wave of the angel's hand, scenes from my own life reappeared, but this time with a different perspective. I saw the ripple effects of my actions, often unnoticed by me. I remembered the day I helped Mrs. Rodriguez carry her groceries up the stairs. A simple gesture that rekindled her hope on a particularly lonely day. I recalled teaching my nephew how to change a tire and how that small act of mentorship imbued him with confidence that extended beyond that single lesson. But I also saw the moments I had overlooked or judged others, and I witnessed the far-reaching effects of those seemingly minor interactions. Every word, every action, every choice has significance, the angel said. You wield the power to illuminate the world with every action you undertake. As I absorbed this final revelation, I felt a gentle tugging, initially subtle but growing in intensity. It's time for you to return now, Hank, the angel said. Remember the lessons you've learned here. Let them guide you in the time you have left. I yearned to remain, to delve deeper into this profound well of love and understanding, but I knew the angel was right. My time here was not yet complete. As the tugging became more insistent, I heard the angel's voice one last time. Remember, Hank, love unconditionally, forgive readily, and cherish every soul you meet. This is the path to true joy and fulfillment. And then everything went dark once more. I was jolted back to the harsh reality of my body, gasping for air, my lungs ablaze as if I'd sprinted a marathon. My eyes flew open, and I was greeted by a glaring white ceiling and the harsh glare of fluorescent lights. The rhythmic beeping of machines filled the space, and I felt the restrictive presence of medical equipment attached to my chest and arms. He's back, someone shouted, their voice tinged with urgency. We've got a pulse. Faces suddenly hovered above me, doctors and nurses, their expressions a blend of shock and relief. A nurse with curly red hair leaned in, her face softening with concern. Mr. Weiderford, she said gently, can you hear me? Do you know where you are? I tried to respond, but my throat felt parched and scratchy. I managed a weak nod in acknowledgement. You're in the hospital, she continued. You had an accident during your 4th of July celebrations. You gave us quite a scare, but you're back now. You're going to be okay. As my vision cleared and the fog of confusion lifted, fragments of my previous experience, the balloon, the light, the angel, the lessons, rushed back to me with startling clarity, as vivid as the hospital room that surrounded me. Noticing my bewildered expression, the nurse, Sarah, according to her name tag, looked at me with concern. Are you in pain, Mr. Weiderford? We can give you something if you need it. I shook my head and managed to croak out a few words. Sarah seemed to understand my struggle. You were clinically dead for just over 10 minutes, she explained. It's nothing short of a miracle that you're with us now, and apparently with no brain damage. 10 minutes, I muttered, incredulous. It felt like hours, maybe even days. But I guess time doesn't mean much when you're wherever I was. As hours passed, doctors bustled in and out, running tests and monitoring my vitals. I pieced together the events. My neighbor, Mr. Guthrie, had witnessed my fall and promptly called 911. The paramedics arrived swiftly, but by then I had no pulse. They worked tirelessly, keeping me alive until I reached the hospital, where I remained clinically dead until moments before waking. It was late in the evening when Betty finally arrived. Her entrance was a rush of emotion, her face pale, eyes red from tears. When she saw me awake and alert, a sob escaped her, and she hurried to my bedside, clasping my hand with a desperation that spoke of her fear. Oh, Hank, she wept. I thought I'd lost you. When they called and said your heart had stopped, and just... Her words faltered, and she dissolved into tears. As I looked at her, really looked, I saw her in a light I had never fully appreciated. The lines etched into her face told tales of shared laughter and worry. The strength in her hands, worn yet resilient, had been a pillar of support through countless trials. And the love in her eyes, the love I had so often taken for granted, was now a beacon of profound significance. In that moment, the first lesson the angel had imparted flooded back to me. Love isn't merely a feeling. It's a deliberate choice, and right then and there, amidst the beeping machines and the soft hum of the hospital room, I made that choice. I'm sorry, Betty, I croaked, my voice still rough but gaining strength with each word. "I'm sorry for every time I failed to show you how profoundly you mean to me, for every moment my temper eclipsed my love, for all the small ways through actions or inactions that I hurt you. My love for you is deeper than I've ever managed to express, and I vow from this moment forward to be more expressive, more true to that love." Betty stared at me, her eyes wide with surprise. Normally, I'd shy away from grand emotional declarations, but something within me had irrevocably shifted. I realized I could never revert to the old ways. "Oh, Hank," she said, squeezing my hand with warmth. "I love you too. I'm just so relieved you're okay." We sat there for a while, hands entwined, immersed in the simple, profound gratitude for each other's presence. Yet there was something pressing, a truth I could no longer keep bottled up. "Betty," I began, my voice measured and deliberate, "something extraordinary happened to me while I was away. It's hard to articulate fully, but I must try." And so I recounted everything: the blinding light, the celestial being, and the 3 transformative lessons I had gleaned. I shared how I had glimpsed our life together from a radically new perspective, how my understanding of love and forgiveness had deepened. I spoke of the intrinsic value of every soul and how my worldview had shifted profoundly. As I spoke, I noticed the skepticism in Betty's eyes gradually transform into awe. Though she wasn't particularly religious, or hadn't been, I should say, she could discern that whatever I had experienced was genuine. It had altered me in ways that transcended a mere head injury. It felt as though I had been granted a rare second chance to realign my life, to embody the person I was always meant to be. Betty listened with patience, her nods affirming her engagement. When I finished, she fell silent for a while, then said, "I don't fully grasp everything you're telling me, Hank, but I can see you're different. If this experience has brought you happiness, then I'm happy too." In the days that followed, as I recuperated in the hospital, I had ample time to reflect on my experience and its implications for my future. The doctors marveled at my swift recovery, both physical and mental. They kept commenting on the rarity of such a seamless healing process. But I knew better. I hadn't emerged unscathed. I had emerged transformed. Once I was able to receive visitors, I asked Betty to bring our photo album. I spent hours poring over it, rediscovering faces and moments long buried in my memory. With each photograph, each recollection, the second lesson of the angel resonated within me, the transformative power of forgiveness. I saw images of former colleagues with whom I had clashed, neighbors with whom I had bickered, even family members estranged over trivial misunderstandings. With each face, I felt the weight of old grievances and resentments lifting away. I enlisted Betty's help to make some calls. Over the subsequent weeks, I reconnected with individuals from my past. I reached out with apologies for old wrongs, extended forgiveness for past hurts, and began mending bridges I had presumed irreparably burned. The process was challenging. Some greeted my sudden change of heart with suspicion. Others were not ready to forgive or be forgiven. Yet I persevered, remembering the angel's wisdom. Forgiveness is a gift we give ourselves. One of the most daunting calls I made was to my sister Marlene. Nearly a decade had passed since our last conversation, which had ended in a fiery argument at our mother's funeral. The harsh words we exchanged had built walls of resentment between us, walls that neither of us had been willing to tear down. When she finally picked up, there was a heavy pause after my tentative hello. It felt as though the silence stretched into infinity, with her defenses rising like fortifications in response to my voice. "Marlene," I began, the urgency in my tone barely masking the vulnerability beneath. "I nearly died on the 4th of July. It's made me see how foolish I've been. I miss you, sis. I'm truly sorry for everything that happened, and I want us to be family again. Can we start over?" Another long pause followed, and I braced myself for the possibility that she might end the call. Then came the tremulous sound of a sniffle, and through her choked voice, she murmured, "Oh, Hank, I've missed you too." Our conversation stretched over hours, a cascade of tears, laughter, and heartfelt forgiveness. It felt as though a dam had burst, releasing years of accumulated sorrow and regret. By the end of our talk, we had made plans for her visit as soon as I was discharged from the hospital. As I continued to recover, I found myself perceiving the world with fresh eyes. The third lesson from my experience, the boundless worth of every soul, transformed how I interacted with others. I noticed the young cashier at the hospital gift shop, perpetually weary and frazzled. Where I might have previously been impatient, I now made a conscious effort to smile, ask about her day, and see her as an individual with her own struggles and stories. I engaged with Carlos, the janitor who came to clean my room daily. Having emigrated from El Salvador a decade earlier, he worked tirelessly at 2 jobs to support his daughter's college education. His dedication and work ethic inspired me, and I made it a point to thank him sincerely each day for his efforts. Even the irritable old man in the room next door, who'd incessantly complained about the food and the staff, became a figure of intrigue rather than annoyance. Instead of feeling irritation, I began to ponder the experiences that might have shaped his bitterness. What fears or pains lay beneath his gruff exterior? Each interaction became a reminder of what the angel had imparted, that every word, every action can ripple outwards in ways we may never fully comprehend. I strove to infuse kindness into every encounter, no matter how minor. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, but was, in reality, only a couple of weeks, I was given the green light to go home. As Betty assisted me in packing up, a mixture of excitement and apprehension bubbled within me. How would I translate the insights I had gained into the real world, outside the controlled confines of the hospital? Yet, as we stepped out, a newfound sense of purpose enveloped me. I wasn't merely returning to my old life. I was embarking on a new journey, armed with the profound wisdom and clarity acquired from my brief sojourn to the other side. The moment I got home, I headed straight for the garage, where my old guitar lay, gathering dust in a forgotten corner. Once a central part of my life, music had been relegated to the background years ago, dismissed as a relic of a bygone era. But now, with renewed enthusiasm, I picked it up, dusted it off, and began to tune it. Betty watched from the doorway, a puzzled smile playing on her lips. "What are you doing, Hank?" she asked. I looked up, a broad grin spreading across my face. "I'm going to start playing again. I'm even thinking of teaching others, maybe at the community center or the retirement home. Music has a unique way of spreading joy, and that's something I want to share as much as possible." In the months that followed, I immersed myself in my newfound mission with fervor. Each day, I devoted myself to practicing the guitar, reacquainting my fingers with the strings. I reached out to the local community center, proposing a beginner's guitar class. To my delight, they were enthusiastic about the idea. My inaugural class was a delightful blend of teenagers and retirees, all buzzing with nervous excitement and curiosity. As I guided them through the basics of holding a guitar and forming their first chords, I felt a familiar warmth in my chest, an echo of the joy I had experienced during my near-death encounter. It was the profound satisfaction of giving and sharing something deeply meaningful. Sharing music became more than just a personal joy. It was an opportunity to apply the lessons I had learned. As I got to know my students, I found countless ways to weave those lessons into our interactions. I cheered them on through their struggles, celebrating every small achievement with genuine enthusiasm. I listened intently to their stories, offering support and empathy wherever possible. Take Tommy, for example, a timid 14-year-old who reminded me of my younger self. Struggling with bullies at school, music offered him a much-needed refuge. I paid extra attention to him, not only to nurture his musical skills, but also to bolster his self-confidence. Then there was Mrs. Avery, a septuagenarian widow who had always dreamed of learning an instrument, but never believed she could. Witnessing her joy the first time she played a full chord was one of the most fulfilling experiences of my life. Beyond the confines of my classes, I sought other avenues to put my newfound understanding into practice. I began volunteering at the local soup kitchen, where I served meals and engaged with the patrons. Every individual had a story, and I made it a point to listen and convey that they were seen and valued. I reconnected with old Army buddies and started a support group for veterans in our area. We met weekly, sharing our experiences and aiding each other in navigating the lingering effects of our service. The sessions were often emotionally taxing, dredging up old memories and traumas, but they were also profoundly therapeutic. Benny observed the transformation in me. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the fireworks burst across the sky, on the 4th of July, exactly 1 year since my accident, she remarked, "You're different. Happier, I think. More at peace." I took her hand in mine, squeezing it gently. "I am," I replied. "I feel like I've finally grasped what truly matters in life, and I'm striving to live by that understanding each day." She rested her head on my shoulder, her warmth a comforting presence. "Well, whatever happened to you that day, I'm glad for it. I like this new Hank." I chuckled softly. "Me too, Betty. Me too." As the months evolved into years, the impact of my near-death experience remained steadfast, growing more profound and deeply woven into the fabric of my daily life. Yes, I still faced moments of frustration and anger, slipping back into old patterns. But now I had a touchstone, a beacon guiding me back to what truly matters. Each day, I endeavored to choose love, even when it was challenging, to practice forgiveness, and to release lingering grudges. I made a conscious effort to recognize the intrinsic value in every person I encountered and to approach each interaction as a chance to infuse a bit more light into the world. Reflecting on my journey now, I understand that the significance of my near-death experience extended far beyond those 10 minutes when my heart ceased to beat. It was about what followed, how I chose to live with the newfound insights and wisdom I had gained. I can't fully grasp why I was granted this second chance or this glimpse beyond the veil, but I know it transformed me. Through me, it has touched the lives of others in ways I might never fully comprehend. So if there's one takeaway from my story, let it be this: you don't have to face death to learn these lessons. Embrace love deeply, forgive generously, and recognize that every life, every soul, holds infinite value. Imagine the world we could create if we all lived by these simple truths. As for me, I cherish each day, each opportunity to embody the lessons I've learned. When my time eventually comes, hopefully not for many years yet, I'll be prepared, because now I understand that death isn't an end. It's merely another beginning. And every 4th of July, as I watch the fireworks blaze across the sky, I'm reminded of that extraordinary journey. Those brilliant lights, fleeting yet magnificent, evoke the souls I glimpsed in that other realm. Each one distinct, each one cherished. It's a yearly reminder of the most profound lesson I've learned, that life in all its forms is a miracle deserving of celebration.